$111,335 in 30 days is exactly what this e-commerce brand did right here. And in this video, we're gonna be covering the overall ad strategy, which helped it do this much. We're gonna be covering the overall landing page layout, the landing page approach, and how we chose specific products to make this type of scale even happen. But before we get into any of that, let's first understand the numbers and get a real idea of how this brand has been doing so far and how it did this much in just last month, which is something it has really never done before. So right here, we're looking at the last month results for this e-commerce brand. It is a fashion e-commerce brand in the Muslim niche, so it is more on the religion side of things. And I just refreshed this page for you guys to show you that it is 100% real. Now, in the last 30 days alone, it has done $109,000, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna be focusing on the month of April because that's really when it crossed this six-figure mark all through majority Google ads. And if we see right here, there was a bit of a dip downwards here, and that's because there was Ramadan going on during the early portion of April, which is when this e-commerce brand historically does the best because again, it is in a religious niche. But that's not the only thing. If we now go on over to Google Ads, we can see that during the last month alone, if we change this and just compare it to the previous time period, because this is an e-commerce brand under my Google Ads agency, Your Marketing, and we started working with this brand at the end of March, basically beginning of April. But during this time period, we've been able to blow up completely the revenue by 141%. Now, this number is actually a much higher. The problem here was when we first started working together with this brand, conversion tracking was fully messed up. That's one of the biggest problems this e-commerce brand had. So as a result, not all of the sales we actually ended up getting via Google Ads were counted. But overall, 141% increase in revenue. The ROAS did slightly drop, but that's what happens when you start to completely blow up the revenue. If we look at the overall conversions, we got 158% more sales, and we spent almost 200% more on ads. Now, this might seem like a very big jump in terms of ad spend, but if we look at the ad spend value, it's only $4,500. One of the biggest issues this e-commerce brand was facing was the overall ad spend was just not increasing no matter what they did. So let's understand a little bit more about what this brand was going through, why they even started working with us before, because a lot of the problems this brand was previously facing, a lot of e-commerce brands still to this day conduct these problems and deal with them without really knowing how to solve them, basically. And your brand might be doing the same thing. Your brand might be kind of going through the same situation. So if we now look from March 1st to March 30th and just change this to all campaigns, I want you to look at this one interesting thing that really interested me even then when I was first looking at this ad account. Was there was only one major campaign which was bringing in majority of the sales. I mean, the second campaign that brought in most of the sales was only $500 in revenue. The first one for the month of March basically brought in $8,300. And the interesting, or rather sad thing is, the first campaign is a branded search campaign, which means these sales were only retargeting sales. This is why so many e-commerce store owners completely disregard Google agencies and just don't like working with them. Now I understand, because so many agencies do such a bad job of working with their clients. They bring them results from branded campaigns and retargeting campaigns and claim that their account is running at a 11x ROAS. This was a very unfortunate thing, and because the account was relying on just branded search campaigns, obviously it was not going to be able to be scaled to the next level. So this is the first thing that I noticed, was there was a lot of reliance on branded search campaigns. The cold traffic search campaign was not bringing in any results despite spending a decent amount of money. Shopping campaign was barely spending anything, and the budget was very low because there was no kind of results coming from it. So it was a total mess with this account, and because there was not a lot of reliance on shopping campaigns, the products that were running within the shopping campaigns had a lot of product feed issues. Now, the product feed, we actually ended up submitting a brand new product feed, but if we look at the product group section right here, or just the product section right here, we can see that there are still some errors within the product feed itself that still continue to this day, and we are still working on fixing them. However, when we first began work with this brand, it was just full of product feed errors. One of the worst mistakes so many e-commerce brands just sleep on because they don't do anything about them. Think of this as like the health of your Google Merchant Center and your ad account in general. If there's a lot of these warning signs, a lot of these signs that tell you that something is wrong or something is not submitted properly, that's a direct indicator to Google's algorithm that, hey, this e-commerce brand is not following your directions. Do not send it high quality traffic. They like to reserve the high quality traffic for the brands that follow all the directions, for the brands that don't have these kinds of errors. So this is why this e-commerce brand was struggling so much to scale with shopping campaigns. So that's really where we got to work. We started work not with the campaign side of things, but rather with the actual product side of things, the back end side of things. And an e-commerce brand that we have pulled up here, it's in the same niche, the Muslim niche, that looked very similar to what we are working with right now is this one right here. It's called Medilta.com. And if we look at the landing page experience, we can see it is a very custom, very beautiful landing page experience. I mean, within the product images themselves, there's actually a video that you can play. If I refresh this, there's gonna be a video which can actually be played, which I thought was very interesting. Now, all these things, you might think of them as extra things. However, they do a very good job of conveying that your brand is premium. And that is why this brand is able to sell this simple hijab for $28. Whereas if we just go on Google and we type in the keyword hijab, we can see majority of these hijabs are basically $1, $24 and more on the lower end, and there are some that are more expensive. However, a hijab, nobody's gonna pay really $119 unless there is enough kind of value that is portrayed by the overall landing page, which our landing page looks very similar to this one right here. Everything is very custom. All these product images are very high quality. If we scroll all the way down, we can see that they have special warranties. They have at-home try offers right here where they actually offer a no obligation kind of approach to their product, which I thought was very cool. They have this unique, beautiful looking description right here, which is nothing like I've seen before. And by the way, this is exactly what our e-commerce brand here mimicked. So this is the kind of landing page experience that got our ads to basically get on the right stage, because without a proper landing page experience, this e-commerce brand would not have done as good as it did and scaled to over 6 figures, mostly from Google Ads. But that was kind of the first thing we started focusing on, which is to help the brand owners basically fix up their overall landing page experience. But while they were doing that, next thing we were working on is the overall SEO for the product titles, the product description, even for the best sellers, helping them improve their product images, because you're not gonna obviously be able to see these images for security reasons, but a lot of these images are actually vertical. They're not 1000 by 1000 pixels, which are square images. Rather, they were all vertical, which is not really something you want to be doing with Google Ads. So along with fixing those images for the best sellers, we were fixing up the SEO for your product titles, doing keyword research for descriptions, and of course, adding on top of that, the landing page experience. These were the first things we kind of approached for this e-commerce brand, because during the early portion of this time when we began work, we knew that Ramadan was the time period when this e-commerce brand made majority of the sale, and this had been proven year over year. So obviously we wanted to make the most use of this occasion as we potentially could. So within the first few days, we basically fixed up the overall landing page, the SEO, and then directly moved on to launching different campaigns. Now, in terms of the campaign times, obviously we were not just gonna rely on branded search to get the results coming in. So instead, we took a very simple approach in the beginning, and we launched via the 2-1 strategy. Now, this 2-1 strategy I've talked about a lot in my previous videos, but it's basically launching 2 shopping campaigns and 1 search campaign. However, in this situation, we launched 2 search campaigns. One was already launched, which is the brand search, but essentially it was the 2 search campaign, 1 shopping campaign strategy. So this campaign at the very top is a Performance Max campaign, which we originally launched, and the second campaign below the Performance Max is a dynamic search campaign, which we launched, and the third search campaign, which was already running, was this branded search campaign. The campaigns at the very bottom, these 3 were recently launched, so we're just gonna kind of disregard them for now. But the reason why we launched 1 shopping and 2 searches, because we noticed, first of all, the budget overall that they wanted to spend was on the lower end, because obviously it made sense that they were not getting results to begin with, so they did not want to spend too much budget. So as a result, we were constrained on the budget, and we took the 2-1 approach. The first Performance Max campaign basically consisted of all of the products within this e-commerce brand. As you can see, we launched it on April 10th, and ever since then it has been increasing every single day, every single week, and performing a lot better. But the way we launched this shopping campaign was on a $100 a day budget, because we really wanted to get those results fast, knowing that Ramadan was basically here and we could not waste any time. But because there was a little bit of data that we could use from the previous time period, we decided to set a target ROAS of 320%. Now, keep in mind, we decided this number based on previous results and not just some random number we came up with all of a sudden. So that's essentially what we kind of used to launch this campaign. And the reason why we decided to go with a dynamic search campaign instead of a normal search campaign for collections or products is because in the fashion niche, there's a whole bunch of collections you could be targeting, and it just does not make sense to individually tell Google Ads which kind of collection to target. So a dynamic search campaign, when you have a lot of collections, is extremely beneficial. And right off the bat, we saw that this dynamic search campaign started off on a pretty good note. I mean, looking at the overall results right here, it was started on basically smart bidding. So we set a target ROAS of 400%. Again, because we had previous results to put that number, but it was able to run at that number very successfully and continue to gather data, continue to get results at that level right there. But basically, it was a very simple approach, and we only launched it with this strategy to start getting that initial data to understand if the campaigns we launched, the algorithm would react positively or negatively to. And in this case, it reacted very positively, and that's why we started these other 3 campaigns at the very bottom. One of them is a search campaign that is in an international country, because now it's all about expanding internationally. And these 2 other campaigns, they're actually standard shopping campaigns, and one of them were at the very top. This one, we're testing all of the excluded products in there. We just want to give those products a second try. And this last campaign is basically all of the products which are very low ticket products. And this strategy is actually designed to target with a very low bid. So it's gonna be targeting all of the specific products that we currently have within this e-commerce brand ready for advertising. But as you can see here, the bid is on the lower end, the 10-cent bid. And the reason why is because we want to kind of make this campaign the catch-all campaign, where it runs at a very low bid and tries to basically catch all of the extra sales which the other campaigns might be losing. So a very simple approach that we are just expanding on. And the biggest kind of benefit that this approach has led for this e-commerce brand is they have stopped relying fully on Facebook and Instagram ads, because before March, basically until March 30th, a lot of their sales were coming from Facebook and Instagram. And even though they did $120,000 in revenue, this revenue was highly unprofitable. That's simply because their reliance was on Facebook ads and Instagram ads. So in the last 30 days, if we start looking at that time period again, you will notice that there has been a little bit of a drop in revenue, and that's simply because, first of all, Ramadan ended, so the overall demand for this brand slightly subsided. But in addition, the e-commerce store owners here completely stopped relying on Facebook and Instagram, and now it's just all about Google Ads. And that's clearly visible because now, month to date, I'm recording this video on the 3rd of May, we can see that they've already done $7,500 in total revenue, which is a 117% increase from the previous year to now, which is a very big number. In fact, just yesterday alone, this brand did roughly $4,000. And if we compare it to last year during this time period, so we're just gonna change the date to 2022, we can see during this day last year, they had done only $1,000. And from the 1st of May to the 3rd of May during 2022, they had only done $5,000. So this brand is no longer a seasonal brand, simply because we focused on improving the landing pages. We focused on doing proper SEO for product titles, descriptions, made their images better for Google Ads traffic. And then we launched proper Google Ads techniques, the 2-1 launch strategy, which this brand reacted to very positively. One reason was because there was a lot of previous data within this e-commerce brand. And then we just basically scaled it further based on those results. So it was a very simple approach for this e-commerce brand. Again, it started with a very strong foundation, which was the landing page and all of the other things we talked about. And then moving forward with the strategy itself, which if you're doing $40,000 or more per month in revenue, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling your e-commerce brand to the next level. Go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. But I want you to watch this video right here on my newest Google Shopping ad strategy for 2023 and onwards I'm using with this brand as well to scale to the next level.